am a slave.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to my prophetical stories. Today I bring you Prophet Lut, or Lot, depending on how you say it, peace be upon him. I am intending to go through this entire thing in a single video. As always, I would deeply appreciate if you would like, place a comment, and obviously share. And for those of you who are new to my channel, if you like what you see, please subscribe. But without further ado, I give you Prophet Lut. Prophet Lut, or Lot, was the nephew of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and Lut, peace be upon him, was born and raised by his uncle Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Ibrahim and his wife, Haran, peace be upon them both, and Lut, peace be upon him, left Babylon and travelled to a city called then to a place called Haran, then to Palestine, and kept calling people to worship Allah, s.w.t, showing them the right path and helping the poor, then relocating to Egypt. Lut, peace be upon him, then migrated to the city of Sodom, which was close to the western shores of the Dead Seas. There is no more details about Prophet Lut's early beginnings and life, peace be upon him. Sodom was the most corrupt city of its day, the Los Angeles of the ancient world. During that time, travellers past Sodom were often waylaid, robbed by Sodom city's people. But the biggest evil act of those people was homosexuality. Man had sex with man instead of with women. This unnatural act was also known as sodomy, named after the city of Sodom itself. They had been doing it openly and without guilt or embarrassment. No one in the history of mankind had ever experienced or practiced homosexuality before the people of Sodom. That is why Allah s.w.t commanded Lut, peace be upon him, to settle amongst them and guide them to worship Allah s.w.t in the correct way alone. However, they ignored and rejected the Prophet Lut's words and guidance and warnings, very clear warnings, and continued their inaccurate, unnatural acts and their vile acts against man on man. Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, warned his people. Lut, peace be upon him, mentioned, will you do not worry Allah, interceding to them to replicate their accountability to their Creator, to hold them accountable. And assuring his folks of his absolute reliability, he added certainty. I am to you a reliable messenger from God. So worry Allah and obey me. And I don't ask you for it at any cost. My cost is simple. From the Lord of this world's, Quran 26, 161 to 164. As if holding up a mirror in the entrance of his folks, Lut as-Salim tried to make them take a look at the awfulness of their perverse habits and prison behaviour. Do you commit immorality if you are seeing? Do you indeed choose men to approach rather than ladies? Reasonably, your folks behaving ignorantly, Quran 27, 54, 55. However, they responded of his folk, those of Sodom, was already terrible, hardened and callous, expelled the households of Lut out of your metropolis centres. And certainly these individuals who hold themselves pure, Quran 27:56. Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, asked, do you commit such immorality as nobody has preceded you with from among the many worlds? Quran 7:18. The folk merely replied with their identical phrases as earlier than asking to drive Lut and his household out. However, Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, ignored their threats and their amenity, and continue to preach the good word of Allah subhanahu and warn faithfully, repenting his message, emphasizing the error and ingratiations of turning away from the source of whom Allah has granted for the pure success of their wants. Lut as-Salim prayed, "My Lord, help me towards the corrupt folk." Quran 29:30. In all the areas, only the family of the Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, was righteous, his 2 daughters and his wife. In his family, both of his daughters were believers, but his wife wasn't a believer. She was a sodomite and related to the folk of the realm, and her loyalty was with them. The angels visited to Ibrahim, peace be upon him. We return now to the Quranic narrations regarding angels who went to Ibrahim, peace be upon him. You might recall they distrust Ibrahim, felt when he noticed that his guests didn't touch the meals he had set for them, and Ibrahim, peace be upon him, says to them, "Certainly we're afraid of you." Quran 15:52. Then the angels reassured him, saying, "Don't be afraid, we've been dispatched to the folk of Lut." Quran 11:70. And they introduced themselves that they are angels dispatched by Allah subhanahu s.w.t. The angels gave Ibrahim and Haran the tidings of the son who was to be born to them. The name of his son was to be Ishak, Isaac. He was also to be a prophet. However, as soon as the matter had been addressed, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, who knew effectively that angels don't go to human beings, besides for some very critical goal, returned to the topic of Lut as-Salim's folk. The aged prophet requested the explanation of their go-to, moreover, giving him and his spouse glad tidings of a son. Then angels then made their errand clear to Ibrahim, peace be upon him. "Certainly we've been dispatched to the folks of criminals," Quran 15:58, "to send down upon them stones of clay, marked in the presence of your Lord, for the homosexuals." Quran 51:33-34. Exceptions, the family of Lut, Quran 15:57. "Certainly we are going to save all of them except his wife. Allah decrees that she is of those that stay behind." Quran 15:59-60. The angels repeated that they destroy all the folks of Sodom. The angels arrive in Sodom. The 3 angels mentioned to have been in Jibril, Mikael, and Israel, peace be upon them all. They arrived on the borders of Lut as-Salim's city within the type of very good-looking human beings. The daughters of Lut as-Salim who were believers. She saw the handsome men entering the city. She ran to her father and informed him of these 3 men. Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, approached the men and welcomed them, as he knew what can happen to the new men in Sodom. He tried to convince the men to leave the city for their own safety, but Prophet Lut as-Salim was too embarrassed to ask the guests to leave. So he guided them, guests, to his home, ensuring that no one saw the 3 handsome men. But Prophet Lut's wife was a non-believer, as a sodomite as she was. She saw that the men entered her house together with her husband. She went out to tell her folk, saying, "In Lut's home there are males, whom like I have never seen, nor have I ever seen such good-looking faces." The men rejoiced at the news and gathered outside of the house of the Prophet Lut as-Salim. Lut shouted, "Do not disgrace me concerning my guests. Is that not among you a man of reason?" He's calling for their reason. Growing restless, the men shouted back, "Have we not forbidden you from housing people and guests?" The whole nation of Sodom had now gathered at Lut's doorstep. They grew impatient by the minute and began breaking down his door. Feeling agitated, Lut called out to his people, "These girls of the nation are my daughters, to marry lawfully if you must act so." The men responded, "You have already known that we have no interest in your daughters or the daughters of nations. And indeed, you know what we want. Lut cries in anguish, feeling completely powerless to save lots of the companions to whom he had given the safety of his home. If only I had against you some power, or could take refuge in a strong power, he thought. The three men then spoke up. O Lut, indeed we are angels of your Lord, therefore they will never reach you. Angel Jibreel then stepped out of Lut's house and struck the men, causing all men to lose their eyesight. The men were shocked and enraged. Then they shouted, "What is this magic that just hit us? Where did this come from? O Lut, you are the one behind this. You will see what we will do to you tomorrow." The blinded men then returned to their homes, plotting to destroy Lut the following day. Allah s.w.t commanded Lut, "So set out with your family during a portion of the night, and let not any among you look back, except your wife. Indeed, she will be struck by that which strikes them. Indeed, their appointment is for the morning, is not the morning near." Quran 11:81. Then it was early daybreak. Lut as-salam departed along with his household beside his spouse. She remained behind and was troubled by the punishment, together with the doers and depraved townsfolk. Quran 54:34. As he had been directed, Lut as-salam set out along with his household. When Lut as-salam and his get together had cleared the realm, the divine commandment got here forth to destroy Lut as-salam's folk. Quran 15:73-74, 784, 53, 53, 54. Verily, command in tones have mentioned that the angel Jibreel, peace be upon him, lifted up the sinful cities into the sky along with their inhabitants and switched them over. Therefore, the identity al-Munafiq, the overturned cities, and Allah rained upon them a rain of stones, and evil was then rained of them that they had been warned. Quran 26:173. As he dispatched upon them the stone of stones, Quran 54:34, of the clay marked with the presence of your Lord, Lord of the transgressors. Quran 51:34-33. It is mentioned that every stone was inscribed with the identity of the participial person for whom it was meant, and that the heavenly missiles struck the heads of the human targets, smashing their brains. Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, and his family, except his wife, left Sodom and returned to his uncle, Prophet Ibrahim, as-salam. Together with Ibrahim, peace be upon him, Lut as-salam continued to spread the message of Allah till his death. Nowadays, the Dead Sea lies at the site of a corrupt city of Sodom and remains a powerful reminder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath for those who transgress against him. And this is the story of Lut, recognized by multiple scholars throughout the world with an accuracy involving homosexuality. Verily, we should take upon this and listen clearly for all those who have difficulty understanding the realities of the Prophet of Lut. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It has been a pleasure reciting the story of Lut to you. Thank you for staying.
I am a slave.